Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really digging into the story of Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, a name everyone knows in football and probably beyond.
Absolutely. We've pulled together quite a bit of material articles, career summaries, analyses to, try and piece together what really made him the player, the phenomenon he became.
Yeah, and the goal here isn't just to list stats or matches. We want to get to the core insights, maybe some things you haven't heard before about how this kid from Madeira ended up, well, conquering the world of football.
Exactly. For you listening, think of this as getting the deep dive without having to wade through everything yourself. We're aiming for that rich understanding.
From like street football in Santo Antonio to lifting those massive Champions League trophies and honestly changing the game in terms of dedication.
It's about the journey, the making of the champion, not just the highlights. So yeah, our mission is to pull out those key nuggets of knowledge from everything we've looked at.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Where else? February 5th, 1985, Santo Antonio, Funchal, Madeira.
Right. And the sources really emphasize the humble beginnings. It wasn't an easy start financially.
No, definitely a working class background.
Hmm.
His mother, Maria Dolores, was a cook, a cleaner. His father, Jose de Nizavero, a municipal gardener, but also a part-time kit man at a local club, Andorinha.
They lived in this small house, tin roof mentioned in some accounts, real financial struggles. But Ronaldo himself talks about it being poverty, but with love. That's a powerful way to put it.
It really is. And you read about the sacrifices his parents made, sometimes new clothes, even proper football boots. Those were luxuries they couldn't always afford.
Which kind of paradoxically might have fueled that incredible drive he developed later on, that sense of needing to achieve something more.
And here's a little detail I found interesting, the name Ronaldo. It was actually after Ronald Reagan.
Really? The U.S. president?
Yeah, apparently his father was a fan, maybe of Reagan the actor, maybe the politician, maybe both.
Hmm.
It's an unexpected connection, isn't it?
It is. And you contrast that sort of ambitious-sounding name with the reality of being teased for his Madeiran accent when he eventually moved. And for his background, there was definitely a gap there he had to overcome.
But the football. That was everything, right from the start. Age 3, apparently.
Yeah, obsessed. Playing in the streets, any patch of ground he could find. Sources paint it as more than just fun. It was an escape, maybe even therapy. Definitely a source of hope.
You can almost picture it. And joining Andorinha, the local amateur team, at 6. That's where his dad worked as the kit man.
So an early immersion in that environment. And even then, people noticed things. The speed, the determination.
And apparently he hated losing. Like, really hated it, crying after losses as a little kid.
That tells you something, doesn't it? That competitive fire was there from day one. And his mother's support seems crucial in those early days. She believed in him. He apparently told her he'd be the best in the world.
Which sounds like typical kid talk, but maybe they both just knew. Incredible belief.
Then, at 10, he moves to National, a bigger club on Madeira.
A step up. And it wasn't long before the mainland giants came calling. Sporting CP.
Yeah, Sporting Lisbon. Massive opportunity. But, and this is a huge but, it meant leaving home. Leaving Madeira. He was only 12.
12 years old. Moving away from his family alone. That takes, well, serious dedication even then. The sources talk about how hard it was. Homesickness. Tears.
It really underscores that commitment he already had. But the challenges didn't stop there. On the mainland, he faced more teasing. Again, the accent, the background.
And how did he react? According to our sources, he doubled down, used it as fuel, started training even harder, extra sessions.
You see the pattern, isn't it? Turning negatives into motivation. And talent-wise, the coaches at Sporting saw it immediately. The speed, the skill. He was physically quite mature for his age, too.
But then, a serious hurdle. At 15, this heart condition, tachycardia, a racing heart.
Yeah, a potentially career-ending diagnosis. His mother was understandably terrified.
But his response, remarkable. He faced it, had the surgery, laser surgery, I believe, and he was back training incredibly quickly, like astonishingly quickly.
That mental strength, even as a teenager facing something like that, It's a massive indicator of his character.
From there, he just flew through Sporting's youth system, impressing everyone, sometimes training with the first team, apparently holding his own against seasoned pros.
And then the debut, August 2002, against Morans. He's 17.
And he doesn't just play, he scores twice. Announces himself immediately.
That performance really put him on the map for the big European clubs. Scouts were watching, but that cemented it. And then came that friendly, August 2003.
Ah, yes, the famous Manchester United preseason friendly.
He absolutely tore them apart, didn't he? Running at established Premier League defenders, full of tricks and confidence.
So much so that the United players themselves, on the plane back apparently, were telling Sir Alex Ferguson, you have to sign this kid.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And Ferguson listened. Within days, pretty much, the deal was done. 18 years old, moving to Manchester United.
Just shows how one game, one performance, can change everything.
So 2003, he lands at Manchester United. Biggest league in the world, arguably. Most expensive teenager in English football history at that point. No pressure.
Yeah, right. And he walks into a dressing room full of massive names. Keane, Giggs, Scholes, Van Nistelrooy.
And he gets the number 7 shirt straight away. Beckham had just left. Big shoes to fill.
His debut against Bolton, though, came off the bench and the crowd just went wild. Dribbling, step-overs, instant impact.
He was exciting, raw talent, but there were criticisms early on, weren't there? Maybe trying too much, a bit too individualistic.
Yeah, the show pony label was thrown around a bit. Lacked end product sometimes, they said.
But this is where Sir Alex Ferguson was so important. He saw the potential, obviously, but he managed him carefully, mentored him.
Became almost like a father figure by many accounts. Guided him, protected him sometimes, but also pushed him hard.
And you saw the evolution under Ferguson. The decision-making got better. He started using his skills more effectively for the team. Became less about the tricks and more about winning.
Ferguson instilled that relentless desire to win.
Yeah.
And Ronaldo just soaked it up.
And the work ethic. Legendary even then. Staying late after training, practicing free kicks, working on his head and his physique. He wanted to improve everything.
First big moment in a final scoring in the 2004 FA Cup win against Millwall. You saw him stepping up.
And then it just built season on season. 2006-07 was a real breakthrough, wasn't it? Over 20 goals, key player in winning the Premier League title.
But 2007-08, that was just stratospheric.
Unbelievable. 42 goals in all competitions. Premier League top scorer. Won the Premier League again. Won the Champions League.
Scoring that incredible header in the final against Chelsea. What a moment.
And then the culmination. His first Ballon d'Or in 2008. He'd reached the absolute pinnacle.
But even then, he didn't stop. That drive was just relentless. He studied other players, apparently, always looking for an edge.
Developed that unique knuckleball free kick technique through sheer practice. Hours and hours on the training pitch.
He brought more than goals, too, didn't he? Glamour, intensity, this almost arrogant self-belief that rubbed off on the team.
Oh, yeah. And the rivalries fueled him. Those battles with Arsenal, with defenders like Ashley Cole. He seemed to relish them.
By 2009, he'd won everything there was to win with United. Premier Leagues, FA Cup, League Cups, Champions League, Club World Cup.
And the Real Madrid rumors had been swirling for a while. It felt almost inevitable, didn't it? That summer, the world record transfer finally happened.
That Ballon d'Or in late 2008 really cemented him, didn't it? Not just a Premier League star, but a proper global icon.
Absolutely. His marketability just exploded. The CR7 brand really starts to take shape around this time.
And we saw his game evolving too. Still skillful, obviously, but maybe more ruthless, more direct. Focused purely on the end product, on scoring goals.
Definitely. And the off-field dedication went up another notch. The stories about his diet, his gym work, his recovery methods, they became legendary. He was sculpting himself into the ultimate athlete.
His public image was changing too, becoming this huge pop culture figure. But importantly, he never seemed to forget where he came from. Often talked about Madeira, his tough upbringing.
That authenticity, I think, really connected with people. He wasn't just a superstar footballer. There was a story there.
And on the pitch at United, even with the Madrid speculation, he was still banging in the goals, leading them to more success before that massive move.
And this is also when he becomes like the most followed athlete on social media. His reach just went beyond football entirely.
We also see him getting more involved in charity work, philanthropy, using that platform.
Yeah, it felt like he was consciously building this image of the elite athlete, the global brand, but also someone aware of the world beyond football, redefining what a superstar could be.
So Real Madrid, 2009, world record fee. The pressure must have been immense. He wasn't just a signing, he was the signing, the Galactico.
Absolutely. He was expected to be the face of the club, to lead them back to the very top, especially against Guardiola's Barcelona. And he delivered instantly. Scored on his La Liga debut.
And just never stopped scoring, really. Under Mourinho especially, the numbers were just insane. That 2010-11 season, 53 goals. It's hard to comprehend.
And this is where the Messi rivalry hits its absolute peak. El Clasico wasn't just a match. It was Ronaldo versus Messi, a global event.
It really was. And you saw Ronaldo transform again, didn't you? From the tricky winger at United to this goal-scoring machine, a pure, cold-blooded finisher inside the box.
Unstoppable. The records he broke at Madrid. All-time top scorer, most hat-tricks, Champions League records. It's just a ridiculous list.
And the Champions League became his stage. 4 titles with the Real Madrid between 2014 and 2018. He wasn't just part of it. He was often the decisive factor.
Those knockout stage performances, the goals in finals, time after time, and that bicycle kick against Juventus in Turin in 2018.
Oh, incredible. Even the Juventus fans applauded, a moment of just pure genius.
He left Real Madrid as their all-time top scorer, 450 goals in 438 games. Let that sink in. It's absurd.
Won everything there, too. Multiple La Ligas, Copas del Rey, those 4 Champions Leagues. Just relentless success.
And his work ethic became folklore at Madrid, inspiring teammates, setting the standard in training every single day. The Messi debate obviously continued, probably pushing both of them even harder.
Then, the shock move in 2018 to Juventus.
Yeah.
Leaving Madrid after 9 incredible years, the end of an era.
You know, looking back across his whole career, that mindset, that's the constant thread, isn't it? That unshakable belief in himself and the relentless drive to improve.
We saw it right back in Madeira, that fierce competitiveness.
Exactly. Then at United, this extra training, focusing on weaknesses. And at Madrid, it reached almost obsessive levels of professionalism. The diet, the sleep, the recovery, everything meticulously planned.
His whole approach to the game, it feels like every match was a test. A chance to prove himself all over again. He never seemed satisfied.
Studied opponents, studied the game, and pressure. He seemed to thrive on it. Big moments, big games, that's when he often delivered his best.
Setbacks didn't break him. They just seemed to make him more determined.
That discipline is legendary. The quote often linked to him, "Talent without work is nothing," really sums it up. He might have had incredible talent, but he worked harder than anyone to maximize it.
It felt like he was always competing against himself, trying to better his own records, his own performances.
And even into his 30s, when players naturally slow down, he adapted his game. Became maybe less explosive over 90 minutes, but incredibly efficient, clinical. A master penalty box predator.
His longevity at the absolute top is almost unprecedented. And it's a direct result of that preparation, that mindset.
And he applies that same focus to his businesses, his brand, his philanthropy. It's just how he operates.
That refusal to accept limits. That's probably his defining trait.
Now, that international trophy with Portugal, that was the one thing missing for a long time, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Especially after the heartbreak of losing the Euro 2004 final at home to Greece. That must have stung for years.
Definitely. Portugal always had talent, obviously, with Ronaldo leading the line, but they often fell short in the big tournaments. Going into Euro 2016, expectations were there, but maybe not huge confidence they could actually win it.
And they didn't exactly start convincingly. That draw with Iceland, lots of criticism.
They kind of stumbled through the group stage, didn't they? Lots of draws. But they found a way. Became very solid, hard to beat in the knockouts.
The semifinal against Wales was huge. Ronaldo scored that massive header. You felt the belief growing then.
And then the final against France in Paris. The hosts, the overwhelming favorites.
Talk about drama. Ronaldo goes off injured after just 25 minutes. You thought, that's it for Portugal.
It looked bleak, but the team showed incredible resilience. They dug in, defended brilliantly. Rui Patricio in goal was immense.
And then, extra time, Eder, the unlikely hero, scores that stunning goal.
Yeah. Unbelievable moment. And Ronaldo, even though he's injured, was basically like an assistant coach on the sidelines, kicking every ball, shouting instructions, pure passion.
It was Portugal's first ever major trophy. A massive, massive achievement for the country.
And while Eder scored the winner and the team defended heroically, Ronaldo's leadership, his presence, his drive throughout that whole tournament, it was undeniably the catalyst. He finally got that international medal.
Okay, we have to talk about the rivalry. Ronaldo versus Messi. It defined an era.
Absolutely. You can't discuss one without the other during those peak years. Probably the greatest individual rivalry football has ever seen.
Just two players operating on a completely different plane from everyone else, pushing each other constantly.
And it sparked endless debates, didn't it? What defines greatness? Is it the power, the goals, the athleticism of Ronaldo, or the dribbling, the vision, the artistry of Messi?
Ronaldo, often seen as the product of incredible hard work and dedication to overcoming challenges.
While Messi was often portrayed as this pure, natural-born genius. Maybe simplistic labels, but that was the narrative.
The rivalry exploded when Ronaldo joined Real Madrid in 2009. Direct competition in La Liga.
The Ballon d'Or basically became a two-horse race for a decade. Back and forth, back and forth.
And all Clásico matches were just unmissable. Global events built around those two.
They seem to feed off each other. One scores a hat trick, the other responds the next day, both smashing goal records, surpassing 700 career goals. Just astonishing consistency. Their team's successes were often intertwined with their individual brilliance. And they divided fans worldwide, didn't they? You were either Team Ronaldo or Team Messi.
Fiercely divided. But beneath it all, you always sensed a level of mutual respect. They knew they were pushing each other to be better.
Exactly. Trying to definitively say who was better? It's almost impossible, maybe even pointless. The real story is how their rivalry elevated the game, gave us a decade of unforgettable football.
So after 9 years conquering Spain, he makes that shock move to Juventus in 2018. He's 33. Why Italy?
Seems like he genuinely wanted a new challenge. Prove himself in another major league, maybe. Juventus were dominating Italy, but desperate for that Champions League title. Ronaldo was seen as the final piece.
There were doubts, though. Could he adapt to Serie A? It's known for being more tactical, more defensive.
He answered those doubts pretty quickly. 21 goals in his first season. He showed he could still score anywhere.
And his impact went beyond goals, right? That professionalism, the winning mentality, reports said it lifted the whole squad.
Definitely. Although there was some debate later on about whether his individual style perfectly suited Juve's more collective approach, especially under different managers.
But he kept scoring. Still performing at an incredibly high level deep into his 30s, he definitely raised Juve's profile globally, made Serie A more visible again.
He became an ambassador for the league, really? Attracted huge attention, commercial deals. It was a successful spell individually, even if the ultimate goal, the Champions League, didn't happen for Juve with him.
And then, another twist in 2021. Back to where it all began, in a way. Back to Manchester United.
That was huge news. So much emotion, so much nostalgia surrounding that return to Old Trafford.
The fans were ecstatic. Expectations were sky high. Could he lead United back to glory?
And he started brilliantly, didn't he? Scored twice on his second debut against Newcastle. The theater of dreams was buzzing.
He kept scoring goals, clutch goals often, especially in the Champions League that season.
Yeah.
But the team just couldn't find consistency.
No, it was a difficult period for United overall. Solskjaer eventually left. Ralph Rangnick came in as interim. Different systems, different ideas.
Ronaldo still finished as their top scorer, proving his individual quality remained. That late winner against Atalanta stands out. But it wasn't the fairy tale return everyone hoped for in terms of team success.
The connection with the fans was still clearly immense. That bond was real. But ultimately, it felt like a bittersweet chapter, maybe. A lot of hope, some great moments, but not the collective triumph desired.
Which led to another completely unexpected turn. Al Nasser, Saudi Arabia, December 2022.
That really took everyone by surprise, didn't it? After a career spent entirely at the absolute elite level of European football.
People immediately assumed it was just about the money, the huge contract. But the narrative pushed was bigger than that.
Right. Expanding his influence, being part of Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030, growing the game in the Middle East. It was positioned as more than just a playing contract.
And his arrival undeniably put the Saudi Pro League on the map globally. Suddenly, everyone was watching Al Nassr. Massive surge in followers, media attention.
He became the instant figurehead, brought that elite professionalism, those training standards. It had a ripple effect.
You saw other big names following him there later. It definitely changed the perception of the league and attracted investment global brands.
It had a cultural impact, too, connecting that region more closely to the global football conversation. And it certainly shook up the transfer market, challenging the traditional European dominance a little.
And crucially, he's still performing, still scoring goals, still demanding the highest standards. He really became a pioneer for that next phase of football's global expansion.
Away from the pitch, family's always been central, hasn't it? Going right back to Madeira, that poverty but with love. And he seems incredibly devoted to his own children, particularly Cristiano Jr.
Absolutely. And then there's the business side. The CR7 brand is enormous. Fashion, footwear, fragrances.
Hotels, gyms, even tech investments. He's built a serious business empire alongside his playing career.
But also the philanthropy. That seems genuinely important to him.
Yeah, consistent support for various causes. Children's hospitals, disaster relief. He made a huge donation to help fund a cancer center in Portugal, for example.
Works with Save the Children, UNICEF, uses that massive platform he has.
So he's crafted this image. The football god, the family man, the businessman, the philanthropist, but always seems to emphasize remembering his roots, staying humble despite the fame and fortune.
So when we talk about his legacy, what are the key things? It's more than just goals and trophies, right?
Oh, definitely. It's built on that foundation of hard work, dedication, professionalism. He completely changed the game in terms of what's expected of an elite athlete.
Set new standards for physical preparation, nutrition, recovery. Young players now look at that and see the level required.
And the mental strength, the ability to perform under pressure, the bounce back from setbacks, to maintain that drive for so long, that's a huge part of his legacy.
He's been a mentor figure too, hasn't he? Leading by example, inspiring younger teammates.
Absolutely. On and off the pitch leadership.
Right.
He became a global role model, someone kids looked up to far beyond just football fans.
And his use of social media, building that global brand that changed how athletes connect with fans, how they build their own platforms.
And using that influence for good through the charity work, it all adds up to a legacy that's about more than just being a great footballer. He's influenced the culture of the sport and inspired millions.
So, summing up this whole incredible journey, what are the big takeaways?
I think it comes down to a few core things we've touched on. The power of sheer hard work, obviously. Resilience, bouncing back time and again. That unwavering self-belief. The constant, relentless desire to improve. Leadership. And, importantly, giving back.
It really is an inspirational story, isn't it? Even if you're not a massive football fan, the lessons about dedication and ambition, they apply anywhere.
Definitely. It makes you think about your own goals, your own challenges.
Which leads us to a final thought for you, listening at home. Thinking about Ronaldo's relentless pursuit of improvement, that constant drive. How could you apply even a fraction of that to what you're trying to achieve?
Yeah. What's that little bit extra, that extra mile, as they say, that you could push for today in your own life? Something to ponder.
Indeed. A great place to leave it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.